Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
More blood continues to spill in Cameroon. The day of yesterday and today have been melancholic in Douala, Boya, and also in Marua. At least 3 persons lost their lives in a Logbeso neighborhood following a mudslide which happened at 10 a.m. today. And several others buried under the mud were saved but sustained severe injuries. Our reporters rushed to the scene of the accident and we will be telling you exactly what happened in this news edition. Over to Marua. The people are still in shock as 7 people were burnt to death after a bus transporting 20 persons suddenly took to flames. And among those who were burnt to death is a mother with her 2 kids and another lady who died alongside her 1-year-old baby. Details of that tragic news element in this newscast. And over to Boya in the southwest region, at least 2 families are mourning the death of their loved ones following a fatal accident which happened at the OIC Great Support Market that was later yesterday. Plus, the SDO for the Funzi promises severe sanctions on anyone who speaks against state institutions in this area of jurisdiction. Viewers, those are our big stories. Details when we come back. Hi, sir, to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television. It's time for the news. Thank you so much for being with us. We begin in Boya in the southwest region. Families are mourning the death of their loved ones following a fatal road accident that occurred at the OIC Great Support Market that was earlier today. 2 persons were crushed to death after a vehicle violently hit a tricycle which was uploading goods beside the road. Local authorities have once again expressed their need to send away traders who sell at the roadside around OIC in Boya. Smart Ndikan Gabriel now tells us exactly what happened today in Boya.
A vehicle shattered beyond repairs and a tricycle in pieces. These were the first images one will see as they arrive at the supermarket in Boya subdivision after a fatal accident that occurred. As I arrived at the market in the morning, a tricycle driver came with vegetables he found, thinking it was mine. So I directed him to a woman who unfortunately wasn't yet around. I took the vegetable to keep for the lady, but immediately I turned my back. I heard a loud noise and I started running, only for me to turn around to see the tricycle rider is dead. The incident that occurred in the early hours of the day could have been more fatal if the market was already full. The chief of Great Support says it's enough.
Very pathetic. This is the 3rd major incident that's happening here. We, the authorities, the chief, the council, everybody concerned should think about this and let us sit down, put our heads together and see what we can do. We have to start to speed brakes. We must have a meeting to try and redress the situation.
The accident, which has been blamed on brakes failure and top speed, has left many lessons to be learned.
The lessons we are learning from that one is that we should try and be prudent when we are on the steering. Another thing is that we should respect the norms of governance in the city.
The Boya Council that has started an operation to stop roadside business at the supermarket says they will go more harder on the traders.
Last week we did some seizure of foodstuff by the road there, but they went back and continued. So we are going to implement it. This time they have seen we are going to be harder in the implementation of those measures, and we pray that they contribute by obeying what we have told them. It could have been worse, as I said, it could have been worse.
The 2 persons who died have been deposited at the mortuary, while those injured are now receiving treatment at the regional hospital in Boya.
So says other sad news elements. 3 persons working at a construction site in the Lokbesu neighborhood of Douala have died following a mudslide which happened at 10 a.m. today. They were building a wall to support another building when they were covered by mud. The 4th victim was severely injured and was rushed to the hospital. A reporter, Innocent Azev, rushed to the scene few minutes after we were hinted of that news element.
Viewers, it is another unfortunate day for the population of the city of Douala, precisely here at Hozokwa in Lokbesu Douala 5 subdivision, where another tragic incident occurred, claiming the lives of 3 persons. They are workers of this construction site that you can see right behind me. The workers, there were 4 in number, who were actually digging the foundation. Earth, as you can see from beneath the fence, collapsed and buried them instantly. There were 4, like I indicated, who were digging. 3 of them are completely buried. 1 was half buried, but he was saved by a local and has been rushed to the hospital.
People were working there, and due to the temperature, the landslides and buried them inside there. The first people succeed to rescue 1. But the other 3 are still inside there.
The 5th person, who was also a worker at the construction site, was not actually in there digging, but he was away when the incident occurred. And so far, the population told us that they responded immediately by calling elements of the Army Rescue Unit, as well as security officials who are present to take stock of the situation and also to secure the area from any further incidents. And we're expecting them to begin working as soon as possible to drive the 3 corpses buried in this earth that you are seeing right behind me.
You know, we are in Cameroon. We call them around 9 or 8:30 so. They arrive here around 2.
We have the caterpillar just arrived at the construction site to begin work to retrieve the 3 bodies buried in the earth right behind me. As you can see, they're already doing their job, and we're expecting that any moment from now the corpses will be retrieved. It is over here at Hozokwa Lokbesu Douala 5 subdivision. The work done by the Army Rescue Unit as well as the Defense and Security Forces. Finally, the 3 corpses buried by the earth are so far been retrieved and exposed for identification and of course collection. If family members are not available, they will certainly be taken to the mortuary. And just to tell you that this is another tragic incident that is happening a year after the Mobile Guinness incident still in the Douala 5 subdivision that claimed the lives of over 30 persons. Here at Hozokwa Lokbesu Douala 5 subdivision, Innocent Aze, Yuben Michel Kamini, Theophile for Equinoxe Television News.
Thank you, Innocent Aze. And just to remind our viewers that it is coming few days after another young man was killed in a mudslide that was in Banjul, in the west region of the country. Now let's listen to the Secretary General at the Governor's Office, Abubakari Haman Trito, who was at the scene at Lokbesu this afternoon.
Here in Lokbesu area to witness that we have an accident and 3 people have been buried by the soil. So we seize the occasion to present our condolences to the bereaved family, and we sensitize Cameroonians who are living here in littoral region not to settle in the risk zone area. He is in the hospital and he has been taken care in the hospital, and we do hope that he will be better. The inquiry is ongoing, and we will have results, and we do hope that responsibilities will be settled.
Sad indeed. Bloodshed continues on roads across Cameroon. It is rare for a day or two to pass by without a family mourning a loved one caused by a road accident. In Marua, at least 7 persons were burnt to death after a 20-seater bus suddenly took to flames that was seized today. Among the victims were a lady who was burnt to death with her 2 kids and another woman who was trapped in the flames with her 1-year-old baby. Mala Glory with details of this other sad news story.
A minibus completely burnt to ashes. The vehicle, which had on board 20 passengers, left the town of Marua and was heading to Pools, a locality in the Mayodani division, far north region of the country. When on their way, the bus caught fire and 7 passengers were burnt to death, while others sustained injuries. Among those who died were 2 women, one with her 2 children, 6 and 10 years old, and another woman who died alongside her 1-year-old baby. And 2 others were burnt beyond recognition.
Un enfant de 6 ans et une jeune fille de 10 ans. Et une autre maman qui avait un bébé d'un an.
The senior divisional officer Jean-Marc Ekwambaga, who was on the site to witness the situation, confirms that 7 people died.
Même pas la possibilité d'identifier les corps.
The incident that involves a bus belonging to an interurban transport agency, Jamari Express, occurred around Jidel, where 13 passengers were severely injured, while 5 others are in a critical condition. The SDO says 3 of the wounded victims are receiving treatment at the Bogo District Hospital, while 2 critical cases have been transported to the Marua Regional Hospital. The senior divisional officer, alongside other government officials, presented the corpses to the different families.
Qui nous a beaucoup aidé là-dessus avec l'adjoint maire de Bogo.
He explains that they call all the family members so they can better identify the corpses and prepare for their burial. Though the real cause of the accident is still unclear, witnesses say it resulted from a mechanical fault.
Media souls rest in peace. A gendarme officer who worked at the Marseille Gendarmerie Brigade in the Senegal Maritime Division of the Littoral region has died under unclear circumstances. It is alleged he was shot by a brigade commander while he was trying to clean his automatic pistol. ACL Lucy Liengu visited his family residence at Nkorbikok in Yaoundé, in the Yaoundé 6th subdivision, where his family revealed his corpse is still missing.
The wife and family members of 33-year-old Ghislaine Thierry Ngansop, residents of Yaoundé 6th subdivision, are still to believe the sudden demise of their son. The death of the gendarme major who worked at the Gendarmerie Brigade of Massok, close to Puma, in the Senegal Maritime Division, is still unclear. Bertrand, brother to the deceased, explains he received a call on Sunday morning from his elder sister informing him on some images circulating on social media which reports the death of their younger brother. Disappointed and in excruciating pain, his family complained the lifeless body of their beloved is nowhere to be found at the time. The family visited the commander of Edeya, who wasn't on seat, but on phone he told us the history is true. We asked him where the body is. He said it is at the military hospital in Douala. He then told us to drop 2 numbers and that we will be contacted if need be after investigations. According to a close source of the said investigation, aside the commander of the Gendarmerie Brigade and the deceased, just a bike rider was an eyewitness of the tragic incident, and he is currently being investigated. The same source reveals Ghislaine Thierry was shot accidentally by the commander who wrongly manipulated an automatic firearm. All we want is for justice to take its course so truth can prevail. Until now, we haven't heard a word from his superior, just flying news on social media. Meantime, investigations have been launched to determine the actual cause of the untimely death of the 33-year-old gendarme. Ghislaine Thierry leaves behind his pregnant wife, his 2-year-old baby, and family to mourn him.
In other news, civil society actors, political actors also are raining stiff criticisms on the senior divisional officer for the Fundi division over a prefectural order considered as a serious violation of human rights. And notwithstanding, politicians of the ruling CPDM party think what is important is for the prefect to maintain peace and order in this area of jurisdiction. Let's now have those reactions with Babila Jonathan.
An administrative decision imposing a ban of residence in the Fundi division on all persons who will be found guilty of having orchestrated an uprising against Republican institutions, dangerous attacks against state institutions and officials, and maneuvers to destabilize public order. According to the prefect of the Fundi division, Emmanuel Ndigdeng Mariel, such persons will be prohibited from residing in the nation's capital Yaoundé. Lawyers, human rights defenders, civil society and political leaders read in the decision a gross violation of human rights like the right to freedom of movement and speech, enshrined in national and international legal instruments duly signed and ratified by Cameroon, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and even the Constitution of the Republic. Honorable Cabral Libi of the Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation says the senior division officer's decision is inadmissible. However, Legal Mind and member of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) political party, Barrister Julius Acho, thinks focus should rather be on the intention of the decision.
What he seems to be doing is some precautionary measures, some sort of dissuasive measure, whereby he's warning certain persons who have evil intentions against the nation, against the state, to be very careful. And want to tell that they are aware of what is going on and the state is preparing for them. That SDO, for reasons of public order, can issue certain decisions that may affect the population. So when it comes to the legality of it, we can't challenge the SDO because it has the right to do what is done. If that idea, what the order has it negatively influences your right as a citizen, those administrative courts to challenge what is written.
Honorable Cabral Libi points out the fact that neither the 1990 law on public order nor the 2008 decree on the attributes of heads of administrative units authorizes a senior division officer to hinder anyone from residing in any part of the country. Referring to the administrative decision as a sign of unprecedented democratic backslide, Honorable Cabral Libi has urged the prefect to withdraw the decision.
We will be talking more on that in the second part of the news. Now in foreign news, Kenya's anti-government protesters have been venting their anger at the International Monetary Fund, blaming the global financial institution for President William Ruto's now defunct finance bill, which sparked deadly protests across Kenya some time ago. And over to Rwanda, the partial results of the legislative elections have been made public. That was earlier today. Let's now have a foreign page roundup with Cedric Chakutu.
Anti-government protesters in Kenya have returned to the streets, stepping up demands for President William Ruto to resign despite his recent concessions. One man has been shot dead during a confrontation between protesters and security forces on the outskirts of the capital, Nairobi. In central Nairobi, shops have been closed as police fired tear gas to disperse hundreds of demonstrators. The protests began last month against an unpopular tax bill, which has since been withdrawn by the president. The day continued into broader anger over bad governance, corruption, and police accountability over the deaths of dozens of demonstrators at recent rallies. Last week, President Ruto called for a dialogue as he fired his entire cabinet and head of the police force resigned. The protest movement is largely coordinated online by young Kenyans, many of whom have rejected talks and are calling for their president William Ruto to go. A crowd carried the body of the demonstrator killed on Tuesday in Kitengela in southern Nairobi to a nearby police station. The police force has not commented on the man's death. The protesters chanted, "Ruto must go." Elsewhere in Rwanda, the partial results of the legislative elections fell during the night from Tuesday to Wednesday. After the overwhelming victory of more than 99% of the votes for Paul Kagame announced on Monday evening, a few hours after the closing of the polling stations, the majority vote in the legislative elections reinforces the hegemony of the presidential party. According to the first result of the legislative elections, the coalition of the presidential party, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, FPR, remains in the majority with more than 62% of the votes. Other historic parties, notably the Liberal Party and the Social Democratic Party, obtained nearly 11% and 9% of the votes respectively. Allied groups of the FPR, some of whose leaders are ministers, supported the head of state Paul Kagame for the presidential election and followed him during the campaign meetings. After these elections, using the proportional voting system, the composition of the assembly should change little compared to that elected in 2018. The Electoral Commission has not yet given the distribution of the number of deputies by political party.
And now in our Olympic Games package tonight, let's talk swimming. Cameroon will be represented by 2 swimmers at the Olympic Games, Ngelo Mabo Grace Manuela and Jojo Kamsu Armani Ngwiche. If Jojo Kamsu Armani Ngwiche is the men's national champion, Ngelo Mabo Grace Manuela is still to make her name at the local level. Who are these 2 swimmers representing Cameroon at the Olympic Games? Magican Gabriel attempts an answer in the report which comes up next.
18-years-old Ngele Mabe Manuela and 17-years-old Giorgio Kamsu Amani Giche will be Cameroon's 2 athletes in the pool during the Olympic Games in Paris, France. If Giorgio Kamsu Amani Giche is arriving in Paris, France as Cameroon's champion this season, it will be recalled that he got into the top 10 ranking of the International Federation after his performance at the African Swimming Championship in Luanda, Angola. It was the first time a Cameroonian swimmer was participating in a 5-kilometer swimming race in the high sea, and Giorgio Kamsu Amani Giche was ranked 9th. At the Olympic Games, Giorgio Kamsu Amani Giche will be participating in the 100 meters men's freestyle swimming discipline. On the other hand, Ngele Mabegras Manuela was spectacular during her participation at the World Swimming Championship in Japan 2023 and Qatar in 2024. Her time amelioration made it possible for her to be in Paris to compete in the 50 meters women's freestyle swimming discipline. It's the first experience at an Olympic Games for the 2 swimmers who will also have the last words to say when they go into action.
Thank you, Smart. That report brings us to the end of the first part of the news. Talking Points comes up next. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Amadou Tante. He is a human rights defender. Amadou, thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Now we are talking about the communique of the Senior Divisional Officer for the Mfundi Emmanuel Maria Njingdend. It was signed, that was yesterday, indicating, among other things, that anybody who attempts to speak or say anything negative against state institutions will be expelled from the Mfundi division of the Central Region. Now, as a human rights defender, what's your appreciation of that outing of the Senior Divisional Officer for the Mfundi yesterday?
Anabila, thank you once more for giving me this opportunity. Permit me to say, first of all, here that condemn in strongest terms the ridiculous and unreasonable decision recently taken by the SDO of Mfundi in the Central Region of Cameroon, calling or prohibiting, or saying that he will henceforth prohibit the stay of some Cameroonians in Yaoundé, and as well deport those he took consider in his terms as troublemakers within the Yaoundé. This decision, to me, I think is overzealous. The Senior Divisional Officer of the Fundi has gone too far, because you cannot in a state start using the term deportation, which is something mostly used in international law, to talk about transferring people from one country, maybe criminals or whatsoever reason, from one country to another country. So if within our country we can start talking of deportation, to me, I think this decision is very divisive, and it seems to me as some form of discrimination within Cameroonians, because we are Cameroonians and we are supposed to live freely in Cameroon as enshrined in the Constitution of Cameroon, because all Cameroonians, as per the Constitution and international engagements signed and ratified by Cameroonians, has the right to freely move and resident wherever they like in Cameroon without any exception. It doesn't matter. At least we should not use our maybe political differences or whatsoever to start going that far or doing some certain things that are unreasonable or against the law. Because to me, I think even the law doesn't permit the SDO to go that far, because we have the 1990 law on on the maintenance of law and order, which has given power to SDO, as well as the 2008 law to that effect. But the law doesn't go that far to give the SDO the power to prevent Cameroonians from moving within a particular part of the country.
Amadou, your answer takes me to talking about the competence of the SDO. Does the senior divisional officer for the Mfundi have the competence to take such a decision, that is deciding who stays or not in the Mfundi division of the Central Region?
Possible, because the Constitution of Cameroon is very clear in the preambles, as well as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, African Charter on Human Rights, which are laws that are international norms that are duly signed and ratified by Cameroon. It doesn't give any order, nobody has the right, whether an SZ or whosoever, to prohibit a citizen from freely moving within the national territory, within the national territory, except maybe for somebody who is a prisoner that you might have been imprisoned, tried by the court and sentenced, that you might be prevented from within particular time or moving within particular area. So it's not acceptable. There's no law in Cameroon here that has given, be it national or international laws, that have given the SZO that power to prohibit a citizen from moving from one part of the country to the other. So that's the reason why I said that the SZO is being overzealous and unreasonable on his decision.
Now we know that some political figures, especially those who are very critical, stay in the Mfundi, in the central region of the country. No need to mention the names of some of those public figures who are very outspoken and critical of the government who are in the Mfundi. Can that be a way of stifling freedom of expression, Mr. Tante Amadou?
I would say that the SDO of Mfundi is from some certain level, let me say, his right to a certain level by saying that because normally Cameroonians have rights as well as responsibility. So we don't have right to maybe cause disorder or do some certain things that might impede some certain some destroy public institutions. But that notwithstanding, as Cameroonians, we have a free right of opinion, freedom of opinion and freedom of expression. So we have the right to freely express ourselves on certain issues. Even though we have limit, because if we are going, we should not go too far, because there's a limit. There's a freedom of expression and freedom of opinion and freedom of expression, but it has limit. Though I consider even the SDO or the decision of the SDO as a serious threat to freedom of opinion and freedom of expression, because these things will go too far. It will go as far as creating fear on some Cameroonians who will be afraid to be freely expressing themselves within the country, which is a constitutional right to Cameroonians, because everybody has the right to freely express himself or have the right to reason and say things the way he thinks, not by intimidation, without any fear of intimidation or threat.
Flip side, Mr. Amadou, we are going close to an electoral year. Can the STO not be looking for ways of reducing verbal disorder which can lead to an unrest during elections in Cameroon?
Definitely. To me, I think that this things happening by this thing communicated from the SDO is coming after that of the Minister of Territorial Administration recently signed, because all these things to me, I think is a serious, it's an indirect way of trying to silence or opinion holders or politicians in Cameroon, so that it will give more advantage to the ruling CPDM party. So it's very ridiculous in the country when we have administrative officers or we have ministers who stand to talk indirectly on behalf of the ruling CPDM party, because to me, this game of political interest is a game for political parties and not games for administrators, because I don't think any administrator or a minister has the right as per se to be making such an outrageous statement, because those statements to me are very outrageous, because this is a political issue. You talk on politics when we talk of interest, a game of power and a game of interest. So this thing should be meant for politicians and not meant for administrators who are supposed to take into consideration the general welfare or interest of Cameroonians at hand before making any decision.
And now, can this have a negative influence on other overzealous, let me borrow your word, overzealous administrators who might turn to copy such decisions if there is no reaction or counter reaction from the masses or disgruntled Cameroonians?
Of course, to the best of my little knowledge, I've known Cameroonians or SL administrators as those copying wrong things, because in Cameroon here, I've noticed that for some time now, sometimes when an SDO or a GO make a decision, and most of them, those decisions are unreasonable. Very soon, and when people remain silent, very soon, the other SDO copy same. And most of them, I don't understand how in a republic, in a country, people keep taking decisions the same decision all the time and expecting different results, because we know very well that these are the kind of decisions that can create chaos. Because sometimes, if for example the SDO of Fundi prohibit a particular individual, maybe a politician or leader within Fundi as he's claiming, and maybe in another division some citizens on a particular division will say that since we have prohibited this man from our division, maybe from our origin, or from maybe for example from the littoral region, we shall equally prohibit some particular group of people, and this kind of thing may lead to chaos within our country. So the administrators of Cameroon to stop taking the same decision and expecting different results, because these things are really unreasonable and a serious threat to the peace and unity that we are enjoying in Cameroon today.
We are hoping that such a decision doesn't destroy then construct. And now, before we go, Mr. Amadou, do you have any words of caution?
Let me use this opportunity to call on the senior divisional officer of Fundi to withdraw with his statement or his press release with immediate effect to save the image of Cameroon, because these are the kind of things that give us very bad image, especially within the national and international community. We're equally praying for the hierarchy of the SDO to make sure that they call the SDO for questioning, so that we can end this thing. Because if the SDO is not summoned for questioning as soon as possible, to tell him to withdraw this statement and end such things, there's possibility that the other SDO may be tempted to do the same, because this is just calling for cheap attention to me. I think it's just trying to call for cheap attention, which is not necessary at this point in time in Cameroon. We are praying for peace, unity, and development within our country.
Thank you so much, Amadou Tante, for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Just to remind our viewers that you are a human rights defender, and you're based more in the northwest region of the country. Viewers, thank you so much for being with us. That does it for this edition of the news. Don't go away. Our programs continue. Equinoxe comes up in about 30 minutes with Search Along 2, and the news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. with Irish Ngono Mala. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.